Hi, my name is Samara Rice, and we're going to cover daily logs today. This session is a re-record for the actual presentation we did on June 21st. The audio was bad on that recording, and so we're going to redo it here today. If you have any questions, you can contact us via your support system. On the left side, that green tab, Help, and then up at the top, the Support tab, you can just submit a support request. What we're going to go over today is the use of daily logs. We're going to cover kind of from beginning to end how they work, as well as some best practices and reporting on them, how to import them into your pay estimates, and maybe tracking some time and material tags. Right now I'm logged in as the CM team, so one of the things to keep in mind is we have a request for a daily log. What that feature does is it allows you to specify what kind of information you want from your inspector, from the guy out on the job site who's filling out that daily log. So let's go to my screen. So you can see here that I'm logged in under the CM team. This is Bruce Brown. He's the construction management team focusing on this particular project. What he's going to do is he's going to go to that daily log tab, and you'll see he has a new button here. What that new button does is it creates that new request. So you can see I've got a couple requests over here already. I've decided to organize them via the months. You can decide to organize them anyway. The request portion of the document is something that you only want to fill out maybe once a project, maybe once a month, maybe once per inspector, but it's not something that you should be filling out every day and sending over to your inspector. What you want to do is you want to group all those daily logs in a way that makes sense to you. I selected months because I'm only going to have, only one inspector is going to be responsible for it. Whether it's Joe this time and Ned next time, it doesn't matter. They only need to submit one report to me each day. If I had several different inspectors, then I may want to separate them out as by inspector. So John sends his over every day, and then Stan also sends his over every day. What Bruce is going to do to start off the process for the daily logs, he's going to click New. And that's a fairly simple form. You'll notice now that my daily log request, it doesn't have a number. As with any document in the system, that gets assigned once it gets submitted. It's an auto numbering sequence, so just the first time it gets submitted, it's going to be number 1, second time number 2. I think I have May, June, and July already in the system, so I'm going to go ahead and do the one for August. And then I have a bunch of checkboxes here. Anytime I check off one of these checkboxes, and I'm going to go ahead and do all of them except for that last one at the end, they are going to allow for fields to show up on my daily log. So again, this is the request portion. This is the CM team fills out and sends over to the inspector. This is the requested information. So it's the information you want him to actually fill out. Again, I'm going to leave that activity details unchecked for right now. It makes the daily log function differently when you have that checked off, and I'll explain and show how that's different. So we're just going to leave that unchecked right now. You also have the ability to put files into the miscellaneous folder. So what that does is it duplicates it underneath the Documents tab and stores it in the folder you select. So in this case, I'm going to go with Daily Log Reference Documents. So anything that's a non-picture document is going to get filed under this tab here, under the Miscellaneous tab and underneath that folder. Any pictures that I attach, they're going to get duplicated in the folder that I select here. So we're going to go with Contractor Photos. And keep in mind that to get folders to appear in these drop-downs, you actually have to add them to the Document tab, either Miscellaneous or Picture. Once they're in that tab there, you would be able to select them in the drop-down. If you need help creating folders, you can certainly contact us at support, and we will help you create those folders. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And then you're just going to submit this document over to anybody that you need to fill out. So it could even be you're submitting it to the owner because they're going to review it too, but you certainly want to send it over to your inspector. So I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. And in this case, it's going to be a contractor document. So I can send it to the entire organization. If anybody over there needs to fill it out, they can fill it out. Or of course, I can select it to the individual user who's supposed to be filling this form out. we're just going to go with everybody over at the contractor organization. And then I go ahead and click Submit. Okay, so now it's under pending. You can see it there, August 2013. And this is very similar to the May one, so all the same fields are filled out. This one I just happen to have extra. I have some that are already filled out, so we're going to go ahead and fill one out on this particular request now. So CM team, it may or may not be who's filling it out. There are instances where somebody on the CM team needs to fill out a daily inspection report as well as the contractor. So in that case, you would create two separate requests. The contractor would submit his over on his request, and then your internal member would submit theirs over on their request. Again, you can keep, as with any document, you can keep them separate in the system. So you would obviously only submit that request internally if you only wanted the staff on your CM team to fill it out and see it. And the contractor wouldn't be able to view it unless you shared it with him manually. Okay, so instead of Bruce Brown, we're going to go with Ned Stark. He's my inspector. He has limited permissions. Even though he's part of the contractor, he has even less permissions than the contractor organization because he's just really responsible for filling out daily logs. So we're going to go to that daily log tab. You can see he's got his inbox. There's the one that we just sent over to him, and then he obviously has a couple other ones that we've already created in the system. You'll notice here that he does not have that new button. What that does, what that means is that he cannot create his own request. So you as a CM team or maybe the lead inspector, somebody needs to have that new button to create that request, and then the inspector can come in and respond to that request. So what he's going to do is he's either going to click on the link from his inbox, but he can also come over here to his browse box and click on that link there. So if we were going to respond to the one we created today, we go with that August one, but we're going to stick with May since we've already got some in there. So he just clicks on that request, and then he has that respond button. So that allows him to be able to respond to the daily logs. And let me just make my screen a little bit bigger so you guys would be able to see it. Okay, so you've got that respond button. You can see also down here I've got a list of my responses. One thing is you can customize the way this looks. You just click on that customize. You can customize that grid there. And you've got a couple other options over here, so you would just select them. You can either click on them and click add, or double click on them and remove them over here. You'll notice that my Save button grays out. I just need to change the name away from default, and I get my Save button. You can also lengthen the list, so if you wanted to see all of them, you could have them all viewed there. I think it goes up to 256 items on the page. So in this case, we only have 9, so let's just go up to 25. And there you can see all of my daily logs. Okay. So let's look at our pending again. You can also view your daily logs on your browse box. If you have your response checkbox checked off, you'll be able to view them there. If you uncheck it, it'll just list the requests. So if you know which request you're going to, you just click on it, and then you can come click respond. So we're going to go ahead and fill out the daily log. I'm going to click response. And we're going to go with, since we're doing the May ones, I think the last one we filled out was probably maybe the 27th. So let's go May 28th. And then you've got a general text box here. So you would just type in any kind of information that you wanted to cover. In this case, it would just be so you really only have that one text box to fill out the details of the work that was performed. This differs slightly from the activity details, which we'll get to in a little bit, but you have one box here that you would just input all of the day's activities. Like any of our text boxes, you can copy and paste into the text box. So if you highlight a portion of text somewhere, or if you have some sort of offline text editing software, then you can use it like Word or any of the other ones out there that you can edit text in. You can type it up on that, if you have any open office files or anything like that, you can copy and paste into it. So I copied that general description of work performed above, and then I can just go ahead and paste into the text field there. So you can, if you don't have internet on your job site and you want to type up your report in Word or something like that, you can certainly do it. And then just copy and paste into the system. So any of our text boxes you can copy and paste in. Inspection, now we have time. So you can see right there it's a time field. You can either enter in military time or you can enter in AM, PM. The duration is going to calculate automatically based on the hours that you input or the time frame that you input as well as the hours. So same thing for work. Again, military time or AM, PM. You have a checkbox here for no work done, so you can check that off and then select from the drop-down as to why there was no work done if that's something required on your job site. So if they require you to submit a daily log for every day regardless of whether or not work was scheduled, you can certainly use that no work done checkbox. Safety, again, it's just a field, a text field that you can type directly into or copy and paste into it. Same thing with visitors and environmental. And another feature that I'm not sure anybody may or may not be aware of is that you can expend. So safety box, it's pretty small, but if you had a lot that you wanted to see all at one time, you could certainly do that. And you can enlarge the text box as large as you'd like it to be while you're looking at it. The next section we have down here is weather. So you click that Add button and then it gives you a time frame. It's going to auto import from a weather station that we've linked to this particular project, and it can be any weather reporting station that reports to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So we pull in all of that information into our database and we'll populate it for you. So in this case, the date that it's going to pull from is the day up here on this daily log. So this will be May 28th weather, and I'm going to input the time. Usually weather reporting stations, they report every hour. Again, it's AM, PM, or military time, so whichever one works for you. And then what I'm going to do to pull up that import is I'm going to click in white space. So anywhere here that's not a text field, it's not inside the text field, you want to just click and it will load in that information. So you can see here we're linked to Honolulu International, and on May 28th at 5 there were scattered clouds, and it was about 71 degrees. When I click this import button, it's going to pull in all of those descriptive terms that you see there, the scattered clouds. As the day gets light, as the day goes on, it looks like it got mostly cloudy, light rain, heavy rain. So if we click later, we can see here around 1 p.m. there was heavy rain. Again, the low temperature is going to import and the high temperature. So throughout the day it's going to look at the lowest temperature and the highest temperature and import those two values. The wind speed, I believe it's the maximum wind speed that occurs in the day. And then rainfall, if there's a registered amount of rainfall that they've collected or reported in, they would be able to import that amount too. You can also, if you know, for example, the rainfall inches, you can input the amount yourself. You probably just want to put the 9 in there. And you can also add to the description. So maybe you had extra thunder showers, for example, by your location, whereas by the airport they didn't actually have the thunderstorms. So you can add into the fields on top of what you've imported in. The next thing that we have here is the schedule of value items. So once you have an approved and closed schedule of value in the system, you can link those line items to your daily log. So you would click Add, and you're going to select. If you have more than one contract, you want to select the correct contract in the system, and then you'll get a list of all of the line items for that schedule of value. So in this case, let's go with concrete, for example, and we can input the quantity. In this case, everything was broken down into percentages, but it could be linear feet or square feet or cubic feet, something along those lines that you have quantities for that you can input into the system. So let's just go with 10% quantity today. You can add more than one schedule of value line item, and in this case, because we're just doing it without activity details, more than likely you're going to want to add in all the schedule of value line items that occurred that day. So let's just go ahead and add another one. If your schedule a value list is quite long, you should be able to search using the box up here. So let's try for electrical. So that pulls up the 2 line items that have electrical in them. So let's go with equipment. And again, we'll just put in 10%. CCR items work very similarly, except for you get a drop down here. So I just have one approved and closed change order contract change request item. So I'm going to select that one. And again, you just enter in the quantity. These are always going to be based on a percentage. So you just enter in the quantity percentage that was completed that day. The next section you have is the craft. Again, if you wanted to add a craft, you can. You click the Add button, and then you're going to select from the drop-down. More than likely, if you're an inspector, then you're not going to have the ability to add new crafts. It is possible that your organization can give you that ability, and sometimes you can create it on the fly. There will be a little line item here that says new craft, and you would just click on that and you can fill out the fields. Otherwise, this list is going to be populated from the Profile tab. So we have, let's go with John Snow. And we're going to input his quantities. They're going to be at 8 hours. And we'll take a look once we save this document where that information comes from. We can also tie it to a time and material tag that's open. So we have one here, extra trenching work. So I'm going to go ahead and input that as a time and material. I'm also going to add another guy who's not part of the time and material tag. He's just part of regular working. And again, 8 hours for him. Locations, that works like any other document in the system. You can add the locations. This can be helpful if you're doing, again, the activities. You can break each activity down into their location, so that would be handy as well. But you can also say, for example, maybe I was just inspecting the basin today. There's several sub-locations if I wanted to, but that's getting a little too specific for my daily log. I'm just going to say that I was at the basin. Equipment works very similarly to craft. Again, you either are going to pull from the drop-down or create a new one. Only organization managers can create their own craft and equipment. So if you don't see that new equipment line item, that's why. You could create it on the fly, or you could make sure that everything is inputted into the system before your inspector goes out to create his report. So let's go with a crane. And again, we're just going to go 8 hours. We can tie this to that time and material tag if we wanted to. Same thing, let's do excavator, and we're not going to tie that one. Links and files work the same as any other document in our system. You can create a link to another existing document in the system, or you can use the files and pictures to upload documents from your desktop. So we're going to go ahead and add some pictures. I'm going to go ahead and click Browse. That brings up my system here. It looks like we've got a couple pictures available. And I'm going to add about 6. So I'm just going to click that Add line 5 times now. You notice down here now that I've got that Add button is grayed out. What that is doing is making sure that the system is going to register all of those documents. So sometimes, especially pictures, can be quite large. They can take a little while to transfer in the system. And so in order to ensure that that information doesn't get lost, if your system times out, if you lose internet connection or lose power, we just want to make sure that you're doing it in small enough batches that that the system can accommodate it, the internet can accommodate it, and your connection can accommodate it. You can also add in the additional attributes. So we're going to go with the date that it was taken, and this one, since I think we're doing the 28th, we'll say it was taken on the 28th. I'm going to put me as the photographer. I'm going to say it was at the basin, and then if I wanted to link it to a material, I certainly could. So you can do that for each one of your photos if you wanted to. And what that will do is it will increase the searchability under the Documents tab, that's the Photos photo viewer. That'll allow you to search by those different tags, essentially. Okay, so I'm just going to do those 2. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So my pictures are getting uploaded. And there we go. We've got my draft daily log. So if I scroll down, I can see that I've got a lot of information here. I've got my schedule of values. Looks like we're claiming 10 each on these. And the quantity date is 42 for my concrete, so that means on all of my previous daily logs, I've claimed 42% of the work completed on that. This one, only 10% has been completed. You can see here my CCR item, 23% has been completed, and I'm claiming another 10 here. If I scroll down, you can see there I've got John Snow. If I click on him, it's going to take me over to his profile in the tab. So you can see I've got profile and craft. The craft you can set up a variety of different ways. You can set it up so that you have the individual's name. So in this case, it's a specific person, John Snow. I also have a carpenter journeyman. So in that case, it's a generic person. It's not anybody specific. It's just a workman who is classified as a carpenter journeyman. And you can use either setup. It really just depends on what makes sense to you. You'll also notice that I've input rates for these particular craft profiles. Those will come into play on my time and material tickets. So let's go back to our daily log. And let's see, if I click responses, I can see here I've got my draft. So if you click save and you're wondering where your responses are, where your daily log went, the good place to look is right here under your browse box. You make sure you have that checked off, and then any of your drafts, they're not going to have a number, so they're going to be right at the top or right at the bottom depending on which way you've got it sorted. So I can just click on that. And it actually looks like, look, we did 28th the other day, so this one should be for the 29th. So I'm just going to click Edit, and I can change that date. There we go. If I needed to update the weather, what I would do is remove the time. Even if it's the correct time, I'm going to re-enter it in and click again, and that will import for the 29th. So then I can click Import, and it will overwrite what I had before. So I go ahead and click Save. And now my daily log is ready to be submitted over to whoever's reviewing it. Oh, I wanted to add another picture. So again, I'm just going to click Edit, and my Add button down at the bottom, if I scroll all the way down, it used to be grayed out because I entered in those 5, but now it's available to click again. So I just go ahead and click it, and I click Browse, and then I select my new picture that I want to add, and then go ahead and click Save. So you can only upload 5 pictures at a time. In between, you want to click that Save and then Edit button. And again, that's just so that to make sure that your internet connection doesn't time out or you don't lose power while you're trying to upload lots of information. It's really to keep that upload time to a minimum to make sure that all of the information gets transferred. Okay, so I'm ready to go ahead and submit. So I'm going to do that by clicking that Submit button. And again, I want to make sure I'm on my daily log request and then my daily log that I want to submit. So if you're looking at the request, you're not going to see this gray bar with the daily log. You want to make sure this is the screen you're on before you submit. If you share that daily log request, then you're not actually sharing the relevant information. You want to submit that daily log specifically. You'll also notice, again, it doesn't have a number yet. That's going to get put in sequence once I click that Submit. It looks like we have 9 right now, so this one should be number 10. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit, and I'm going to select the organization that I want to submit to. In this case, it's going to be that CM team. So I go ahead and click Submit again. Okay, so yeah, there's number 10, and there is my daily log. So one thing to keep in mind is that you can report on your daily logs, and it's not going to be the same way that you report on your RFIs or your submittals. The way to report on your daily logs is you click on the request link if you're looking at an actual daily log, or if you're looking at the request, you want to click on this blue report button. So we've got a couple options here. I've already selected the time frame. I can just select from the beginning of May to the end of May, which is what I want because I'm on the May daily log. You have your total quantities report, and then you have to choose something to report on. So in this case, I've selected schedule of values, craft, equipment, inspection hours, and work hours. So let's take those 2 off. We don't really need them. We're just mostly interested in the schedule of value items and the craft and equipment. So I'm going to go ahead and click Run. And that gives you kind of a little preview. So you can see that line item mobilization. That shows all of the quantities that have been approved to date. So on Dailylogs, by default, you have an approved approval cycle. In this case, all of these ones have been approved. If I check off the include pending, that's going to bring in the ones that I haven't yet approved in the system, but it'll display their number. So I'm going to click Run again, and you can see there's our 29. That's the one we created today. And you can see here I've got that concrete, and it's got a 10 value. The reason it didn't show up before is because it wasn't approved yet. So that will make a difference if you're running the report. You want to either make sure you can include that pending. If you're not going to be using that approval process, we can certainly turn it off for you. But you can also just click that include pending. If I include draft, it's going to display any of the ones that have not yet been submitted. So we don't have any in this particular request right now, but if I had that draft, it would show up. I can also show totals only, so you can see each day's laid out, but if I select show totals only, it's just going to give me the basics right there. If I include the organization, then when I'm looking at a particular craft, it's going to display the organization that he belongs to. So if I click Run, you can see here that John Snow, he belongs to the contractor organization. Craft and equipment, that's going to show what craft and craft and classification is going to show what craft that particular piece of craft is part of, which craft, and then the classification as well. So if I click Run, you'll be able to see that John Snow, he's a carpenter apprentice. So you can kind of see exactly who's been on the job site and what their roles are. You can also see down here Sam Smith, he's the project manager superintendent. Okay, so that kind of covers reporting in a nutshell. You can also export these, so if you print, you've got a couple options. You can certainly get that print preview with the HTML. You can also get a PDF landscape or export to Excel. Anytime you change any of these, you just want to click that refresh button. That will give you the link to download that document. Okay, so we have not yet looked at the activity details, so I'm going to click back here, and I'm going to go, so this one we do not have activity details checked off, but on the June one we do. So let's go to the June. You can see down here activity details. What you're going to do again is click Respond, and you'll notice here that I've got a couple of different fields that are different. So we have our general work description. We have our safety, our visitors, our environmental, and then we go to weather and links. So if I minimize this and make it smaller, and then let's bring over Bruce, and you'll be able to see the difference. Let's close that. So this is the one without the activity details. If I click Respond here and scroll down, you'll notice here, see I have weather here and then weather, and then I have got all that detailed information, and then I get to links. So all that detailed information, it's not gone, it's just in a different location. So let's take a look and see where that is. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save because all these function the same way that we just showed. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And then when I scroll down, you'll see here, this is where my activity details are. I'm going to click Add, and that's where all those fields open up. So you can input the activity. So let's go with, for example, you can select the organization. In this case, it's going to be the contractor. Enter in the time. And again, your duration is going to calculate, and then your break hours that you can input. So you're going to want to put detailed information about the trenching here. So again, it's not quite as general as the previous text fields that we've been inputting. These are going to be much more specific. You're probably just going to maybe want to tie 1 or 2 schedule of value items, maybe 3 or 4, I don't know. But you're going to want to do the ones that are very specific to that activity. And again, you just input the quantity. In this case, it's percentage. CCR items, they work same as before. You're just going to select that item in the drop-down and then input the quantity. Craft, again, you just select from the drop-down and input the quantity. You can, of course, tie it to that time and material tag. locations if I wanted to select a specific location. So in this case, the detailed location may be much more reasonable to input. So maybe we have a couple that trenching was occurring in a couple of different specific locations, so we can input both of those. Equipment, you want to click that Add button, and again, you get that drop down. You want to input the hours. If you wanted to tie it to that time and material ticket, you could. And then same thing as before with the links and the fixed files and pictures. You can add those at your discretion. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And you'll see that I've got that one item. In fact, we didn't input any description of work, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and click Save again, and you'll see that kind of truncates into a little synopsis there. So obviously, not just one activity occurred today, maybe a lot of them did. So there's an option. If you go back, this is going to take you back to your daily log, and I've got my list of activities down here at the bottom. I can import from previous days. So if I click that, it takes me to a list of all of my previous days, and it looks like on the 21st I had a bunch of different activities, so I'm going to go ahead and select those, and I want to import all of them. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So that brings in all my previous day's activities, which is awesome because it'll reduce the amount of work and data entry that you have to input. Keep in mind that when you add import, if I click on that, you're going to have to import your quantities. So when the import happens, it zeroes out all the quantities. That's to make sure that the inspector is actually reviewing what's on the activities and making sure that those quantities don't just get auto-populated. So you don't have to select them from the drop-down, but you do have to enter in the actual quantity. So I click Edit, and then I scroll down. It looks like we've got the concrete here, so let's go with another 10%. Same thing with the craft and my equipment. So importing it is a lot faster, obviously, than entering in everything again from scratch. It does speed it up, but you do still have to enter in the quantities. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And that is the same regardless of whether or not you're using the activity import or you're copying your daily log. So if I go back, and if I were to be copying a daily log, either one with activity details or not, then those quantities, they don't transfer over, and that's to ensure accuracy. Okay, so now I've got my daily log, and again, this is the same as before. I'm just going to go ahead and submit it to whoever I need to have reviewing it. Okay, so that kind of covers the daily log from the request to the two types of responses, the ones with the activity details and not. A couple of other things that you can do linking to the daily logs are, for example, your pay estimates. So if we go to a pay estimate, and in fact, I think we need to go back to Bruce. So in this case, Ned, he's just an inspector, so he doesn't have the capability to create his own pay estimates. Maybe his organization manager does, but in this case, we're just going to go back to Bruce since we already have him open. So I'm going to click Cancel on my daily log, and I'm going to go to my Finance tab. I'm going to go to Pay Estimates. And I already have one in draft. Pretty straightforward. You just click that New button and save. You define the dates and everything as usual on your pay estimate. And then you've got an import button down here. So you can see my quantities through last are coming in from my previous pay estimates. And then quantities this period, instead of manually entering them in, I just want to import from all of the approved daily logs. So you do need the approval process set up for this. Once those daily logs are approved, then you will be able to import them into the system. So I'm going to select my date range, which is the 1st of May to the end of May, and I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And when I do that, it imports all of those quantities that I had on my report that come from those approved daily logs. So that can drastically simplify your daily your pay estimate data entry, especially if you have 100 line items. The inspector already checked off to see how much was done, and then you just want to import those quantities into the pay estimate. It can be really helpful. The other place that those the craft and equipment, for example, tie in are your time and material tags. So if I go up to my time and material tags, I have one that's open, my extra trenching work. And if I go there, you can see I've already got some previously entered in, so that was from the 27th. Here's the 29th. So that one actually is the one that we created today. Actually, so is this one the 26th. That's on a different daily log. But this is the one that was for May. So we can go ahead and enter in the rates. You'll notice that the money doesn't transfer. You have to select which rate it was. So I'm going to go ahead and click Edit. And I'm going to select, it should be standard. And this is from a different daily log. It shouldn't have actually been tied to this time and material tag, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. So I've got my standard rate there. I've also got my operating rate for that crane. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So that auto-calculates the information again and updates my totals so that you can see you've got a total on this time and material ticket of $6,388.56. So it's a great way to keep track of costs that you were not anticipating that aren't linked necessarily to a schedule of values item that are extra work. You can open up a time and material ticket and have your inspector tie all of that work to that time and material ticket and see exactly how much it's coming up to. Okay, so that kind of covers the two places that you would also use data from your from your daily logs. We were originally going to show you guys how to use the system on a tablet, but we can't present using level 3 on a tablet. So we wouldn't really be able to show you some of the cool functionality. One of the great things is, especially with the iPad, but other tablets also, is that you can take photos directly while you're filling out that time, those daily logs. So if I scroll down here when I'm adding a file, a lot of the time you get the choose file or that link there, and it'll ask if you want to take a picture now or if you want to take something from your iPad already. So that's a newer feature on the iPads, which is great. And then other tablets, you can usually choose files that you've already got. So that's one handy thing. So we also had a couple of questions that I just wanted to recap also. It says one of them were, at the end of the month you close it, it seems like the pending screen would get really full. That is true. So if I look over here and I have my pending screen and I have my responses expanded, obviously you can imagine each one of these would have 30 days. You would just, at the end of May, you would just close it out and that would just keep your one active one. That is something to take in mind or keep into consideration. If you are deciding to just do one daily log request for the entire project, you obviously know that you're going to have a long list of daily logs in your pending folder that you won't be able to clear out until the end. You don't want to close that request out until you're finished filling out daily logs on that request. So obviously if you do one for the whole project, you're going to keep that daily log request open for the whole project. If you do it by month, then you're just going to close them out at the end of each month. If you do them per inspector, then once that inspector's done, then you would just close out his daily log request. Another person asked if there was a way to save the equipment entries in a template. And one thing to keep in mind is you can copy your daily log. So this is number 10. This is the one we filled out earlier. It does not have those activity details. So one thing that you would want to do is you probably want to click copy. That's going to copy over all of your information. Obviously the weather, you're going to want to import change the day. So again, you want to go ahead and change that time and it'll import for the new day. Oh, you know what, today's not going to have very much weather. So let's go back to 29:30. This is the next one in the list. So again, you just want to change the time frame, and that will import for the new day. And then again, you have your quantities, and those quantities zero out when you copy, so you want to make sure that you import all your quantities. So that happens with the schedule of values, CCR items, craft, equipment, anything that has that quantity field, that's going to get zeroed out when you copy, and that's just to ensure accuracy. So you go ahead and click Save, and then you're ready to go. Another question was, is it possible to have multiple start and stop times for inspection and work? That's not possible. You only get the one field right now as long as you're not using activity details. That may be a reason why you would want to track activity details, because you could have maybe 2 different shifts a day, and you would track those 2 shifts with each one with an activity, for example, or 3 shifts a day perhaps. And then each shift would have its own activity details. You could fill out all that information, and that would be a way to split it up. And the final question was, how do we get the folders in the drop-down? So you would do that by adding the documents. So in example, we have the pictures, we have those contractor photos, and if I click on there, you'll see all of those pictures that I uploaded automatically get duplicated here. So you can see here these are all the ones from today. They automatically get duplicated in the system underneath your picture. What that allows for is if you click on the picture viewer, you can browse your pictures. So if we go down here to the end, these are the newer ones down here somewhere that we just uploaded today. I think these last ones here. What else that also helps, we're going to redo this soon. I think I've got a new release on this viewer, but you can sort it. So for example, I can just look in the one folder that I wanted to. I just click refresh, and that's just going to bring up all those contractor photos. So for all my daily logs that the contractor filled out, I can just preview all of his photos here. I can also, for example, search by my photographer. So that's where those additional attributes come in. So let's go with Ned and refresh. And those are the ones that I linked to Ned. So those are the ones that he took. So it's handy to be able to browse. You don't have to open up all of the daily logs and search each daily log for the photo. You can just go to that folder and access that information. Same thing with the miscellaneous. If we look at our daily log reference documents, we didn't attach any other types of documents. So this is where they would show up. And again, they would be duplicated so that you could more easily find them. You wouldn't have to go into your daily logs. Okay, I think that's it. So if you wanted to register for our next Friday training, it's going to be reports. Sarah Kelly is going to be doing that. You can just click on the link up here, and that will take you to the registration link. You can also visit our website, and that has a full list of all of the upcoming free Friday trainings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please stand by.